don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have people in chat, but
There's people chatting.
well, okay. Hello,
Yeah.
everyone. Welcome. Um, I don't know what I've got to share on PPC at the moment. I've got a bunch of new clients that I'm working with. You onboarded a pretty big one recently, I think.
Yeah, it's been, leads have been kind of universally slow for me and a lot of folks I've talked to over the January and February, but we've still been getting leads. And we signed a pretty decent client very recently. So, yeah, it's going.
I mean, like actually talking about lead generation. I actually did put in quite a bit of work the last couple of weeks. It's
Mhm.
been slower than I expected, at least slower than what I've
Mhm.
seen before. So when I put a lot of time, like before, into just sort of building out a presence and talking with people, like I would usually get some sort of deal out of it. For the past few weeks, it's been very slow. Um, I've had some expansion going on like just clients being like, "Hey, can you like handle other accounts for us as well, or like can you do this?" And like I actually did sign a client yesterday, so that's pretty awesome. But it's definitely like the closing rate has been lower. Like so, like I've had to
Mhm.
like maybe go through 5, 6 inbounds to actually get a deal, whereas before I probably had to go through like 2 or 3. So
Yeah.
that's a change. So Oscar's asking which platform do we run ads on? We're both Google guys, so uh, maybe as a bit of a background, we are both doing Google PPC. Both have our own agencies. Mine is pretty small. Gil's a little bit more established. I don't know. You guys don't run any other ads, right? Maybe Amazon, but
We're like 90% Google. We do Bing ads,
okay.
and we do some paid social, but only for like big clients that really, really ask nicely. Um,
And would that be like
but
LinkedIn or like Facebook
yeah,
or? Okay.
mostly LinkedIn. I really like LinkedIn actually for more B2B type clients. Works quite well. Um, but yeah, yeah, we're 90% Google Ads. It's my favorite platform.
It's
It's changing. It's getting worse in some ways, better in some ways, but it's still my favorite platform.
I, I would say I like it as well. I don't know. I find the idea of matching search intent to some product offer is just a very satisfying thing. I don't know why. It's just I really like that just commerce. Just like go from problem to solution, I guess.
Yeah.
Someone's asking. We're getting a lot of questions, so that's great. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like when like sort of talking socials, I whenever I talk about LinkedIn, people say it's too expensive. Is that something
Hmm.
you've experienced for your clients or?
It is very expensive.
Okay.
At the same time, uh, it's worth it. If you're in the right niche, if you're a business looking for business contacts, it's
Hmm.
well worth the cost.
Okay.
It can be extremely expensive, but you're also getting someone who's worth a lot more money. Like it's kind of like a lot of people, when you're doing Google ads, they'll be like, oh, we need to I want a lower cost per click. I want these long tail keywords that are,
Mm-hmm.
they're long tail, they're low volume for a reason. They're cheap for a reason. It's because they don't make money,
Yeah.
honestly. And some of our best performing campaigns, we spend $50 a click or,
Yeah.
have a $500 CPA for something. And it's still way more profitable than a dollar per click campaign. It's all in the scale and value of the product you're selling.
I feel that's such a counterintuitive thing that people who don't like work with Google like as a job, right, or like as a business, they don't really see that.
Yeah.
Where like people are just like in their heads are just like, okay, I need to get the lowest amount of cost, the
Yeah.
lowest cost per click, because that's what's gonna get me the
And
conversion.
I think that comes from a very, very outdated view of advertising, like a CPM view
Oh
from
yeah,
like the 90s,
oh
where
yeah,
it's like, oh, this billboard gets 50,000 impressions a day, that's what I'm paying for. It's like, well, no, maybe it reaches 50,000 eyeballs, but or actually that would be 100,000 eyeballs because most people have two.
it's
But
kind of like if I can get as
the
many clicks or if I can get as many eyeballs or views, I'm bound to get some like purchases, right, or some leads. But
yeah,
that's just such a
yeah,
waste of Google, like what you have with Google. Like,
I at least with Google, that's the power of intent focused, like search, paid search specifically. I don't, if my product, if my value is high enough, I don't care if it costs me $1,000 to get one client, if I
yep,
make $2,000 from that client,
yep,
right? Like if if I pay $10,000, $100,000 to get a client, as long as I make more than that, it's worth it. And it's a different approach than just sheer volume, which I feel that's what most paid social is, because there's some limitations on targeting. You Paid social is great for demographics, and it's great
yep.
for a little bit more impulse purchase, maybe, or for branding, or for part of a huge funnel where you're pulling things in from all over. But if, I mean, I'm biased because I really like Google Ads, but if you want to spend on one channel and get some sales, it's kind of the most straightforward.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I do think it's complicated in a way. Like I do like especially as you start, actually, working with like different clients, you'll see that like sometimes like you really need to like game the algorithm a little bit even, or like really try to like
mhm.
understand from like an underlying perspective what's going on under the hood to be able to make Google do one particular thing, but not to stray too much away from the topic. I think the ability to actually match the intent or some query to what you're selling is it's super powerful. And yeah, like there's no reason not to spend $50 per click if you're gonna get a 5K deal out of it, right? Like
Right,
like
right.
who cares if you're spending $1,000 or maybe even 2,000, so long in the long run, or like in the long get me on the stage, bro. Where is it? Okay, so we've got a couple questions. We'll come to those in a little bit. But yeah, so long like like in the long run you're making a profit, like it's great. But like you'd assume, and especially like the more you're working with ads or the more you're doing marketing, that people grasp that, right? That people just get this idea, that like, well, if your cost of advertising is lower than your the deal size, and if your cost of like fulfillment, whether that's your goods or the cost of the service, is also like still within that, that you're making a profit, like it's just great. But like I've noticed that many people don't really understand it, and like I have to repeat it to many clients as well,
Yeah,
um, just so that they're aware that they're actually making money.
yeah. And kind of like everything, uh, I would say in general, the larger slash more successful of our clients
Mm-hmm.
pretty much use every platform. But they do that because they have scaled to the point that they can afford each platform. And eventually they have a large enough brand, it just holistically works together, and every one of those different channels supports the other, so that, we have clients that spend 2,000 a month on their, email, just their email database that they build up over time. You know, but it works out for them because it's they've got 5 paid social channels in Google search and Bing ads, all just building this massive funnel that supports itself, remarkets. You can't do that as a small business. at least as a very small business, you're kind of limited. You got to focus your efforts. You only have so much time and energy and budget. But yeah.
Which makes me think
Anyway.
that Google is a great starting place for any business because it's so bottom of the funnel, or you can really get so like low in the funnel, like you really just, and if you're a bit clever about it, obviously you can find those keywords that are more likely to convert. It's just very, I like starting with Google, like in any
Yeah.
venture, but
I also like it because you can start branching into the awareness, the more top of funnel stuff with YouTube ads, YouTube Shorts, stuff like that. PMAX in a way, like that's really tricky, but you can. So it's a good way to start and then start branching out, and then you just pull in more channels as you can.
I would say that like it's starting to feel like Google is building that ecosystem that does allow for middle funnel or top funnel. You guys sound like Bob
Sound like
Ross.
Bob Ross.
I wonder if that's Gil or if that's me. Well, I'm gonna say it's you, Gil. You sound like a very calm.
Apparently, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. You sound like Bob Ross.
I think it's a compliment. I would hope. I mean, they said you guys, so it's us both. So, but a couple of questions. I said we're gonna talk about those. So, what's the topic? Well, I guess right now we're just kind of freeform talking. But I'm happy. Like I like to answer questions. I think that's always fun. I think you like that as well. So an interesting or practical question. You know, how do you run your retainers? And have you ever tested weekly payments? As a matter of fact, I was asked yesterday if like by a client if I do weekly payments, and I just said no. For me, it's too much administration to have to be like because if I start with one client doing weekly payments, I'm gonna have another client do it too, and then another, and before I know it, I'm like just processing 12 invoices for 3 clients. Like that's just not, like on a monthly basis, that's just not really doesn't really make sense. So I just do monthly.
Yeah, same with us. We do monthly upfront,
Same.
prepaid for a month. Any more than that would just be hectic. It's already hectic, sending out,
Yeah.
15 invoices, like usually in the first week. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine doing it weekly.
Same. Like the
It's a
first day
lot.
of the month, I'm just spending like 2 hours or something just preparing invoices, and then it's
And-
also the
and
message
also-
that you're sending. Like you gotta email them, like contact them.
That also kind of says to me that possibly you're having to do weekly reporting, which also sounds miserable,
Yeah.
and impractical, honestly, just because there's so much variation week to week that you're not going to help your client by reporting
Yeah.
week to week. Generally, like they're going to see a 5% down and then freak out. It's like, no, you got to
Yeah.
look longest time frame possible and compare it with the previous
Yep.
period.
Yeah, and most of the time, most optimizations take more than a week to kick through. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's like I think like I've got one client where we do bi-weekly, and I think that's already quite a
Mhm.
lot. Like I'm like, well, that's kind of a lot of reporting, especially like you write a proper report, like proper document. One solution I have is I do make dashboards for clients, so like they can see those, because some clients
Yeah, we do
find
that too.
just reading or just going through their Google Ads dashboard is a bit clunky sometimes. So actually being able to do having some sort of master overview really helps.
That's a good compromise with someone who wants maybe weekly reporting or weekly, like we report monthly.
Yeah.
So like at the end of the month for a whole 30-day period or whatever. But we also and you can do this not just for Google Ads, but almost any platform. We give them a live dashboard,
Yeah.
just like you do like Data Studio, or you can use many different ones. But if they're impatient, they can just look and see what yesterday's data was. So that's
I mean, a
usually
lot
good
of the
compromise.
time, like it's really just about like Like I've had some clients ask, and then they maybe check that once, and then afterward they don't again.
Yeah, some clients don't care.
And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool, like that's fine. Like so, like I think the monthly reporting is a good cadence. I mean, obviously, if a client sends an email in between or like any time during the month, you should reply to them. Just leave them hanging. I apply the 24-hour rule. So if someone writes me, I always reply in 24 hours.
Same.
That works really well. I got that from your book actually. So I used to be a little
Really?
bit more, yeah. I used to be a little more like, okay, 2 days is fine, but like I really do the discipline, just 24 hours. Basic communication, right?
Well, I'm glad at least one element of the book helped.
That's it. Like that's the only reason I got
That's just emails in 24 hours. That's what we
it.
learned.
Whole book about PPC. That was the only takeaway I got.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah.
So someone's asking, what's your cost per lead? Varying from
Cost per lead, do you mean like for gaining clients or the cost per leads we get for our clients? I don't pay for any of my client leads, so I would say $0, just a lot of time.
Yeah, like I pay
Whatever
time
my
as
time is
well.
worth.
Like I like basically any amount that I get, whether or not they pay me, I give my best advice. So if someone reaches out to me on any platform and asks about PPC and like their account and like anything that's going on, I typically give them half an hour to an hour of my time of just, and that can be spread out over the days, or it can be a couple of hours over the days. But like I give everyone
Yeah.
my best opinions and my best strategies, and then if they're like, well, I'm gonna try it out, I'm like, well, tell me how it goes, right? And if they're like,
Right.
well, that sounds pretty complicated, can you do it for me? And then I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that's also something I can do. So for me, it's a zero CPA, or you can say time is obviously
Yeah.
a cost.
Yeah, and this approach is not universal among agencies by any means, but like every single one of our clients is inbound in some way or the other. We don't advertise, we don't do anything. That is the result of a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of our agency brand that we built up over 7 years, like the books, like
Yeah.
Luke said, like that's part of that process. But similar to Luke, if someone asks me for advice, I will every time give it to them free. Like I'm not interested in charging a few bucks to, advise
Yeah.
someone. I give them value, and if it's helpful enough, they pay me to do work on it. So
Like I
works very
always
well.
tell because I many people are like, I don't know if you've had this, but they'll say something like, oh, thanks for the advice, like can you give me a paid audit, right? Or can you like give me like a consult? And I'm just like, no, I don't do that. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's just impractical. I'm just like, here, like just try this, like try
Very,
this out.
yeah, very often I'll help someone with maybe some super lightweight advice.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, can I pay for an hour of your time, to do that? And like, no, honestly, I don't think it's probably been 5 years since I've tried to do that, because I'm not, yeah, I could charge $150 for an hour right now, but it's not worth it to me. Not because I don't want $150, but because I would much rather have thousands of bucks over the course of years with a long-term relationship with the client doing actual monthly work. I just don't have the bandwidth to sell, hours here and hours there. It's just not
Also like
scalable.
I just know what the process looks like. It's like, well, can I have an hour of your time? And then it's like, sure. And then after that, it's like, well, can you like give me a plan? Okay, well, no,
Yeah.
like half an hour, another hour at it, and then it's like, can you maybe implement
So
that?
that
And then I'm like,
hour,
yeah,
that hour of your time. So first of all, I block out that hour, which means I got to block out an hour on either side
Exactly,
to make
right.
sure I'm home.
yeah,
I'm thinking about it. Then the person follows up, like you said, and is like, hey, what should I do here? That hour of my time
like that
is
hour
a
expands
week.
into like 5 hours, and then I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
you might as well just hire me for the month, because like for my consulting, like I charge a lot more than like my just regular work, right? Like if someone wants me to consult, I charge a lot more.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you can
Yeah.
much rather just pay me, and like you'll have me for the whole month, right? It's just gonna be like in
Yeah.
a different structure than this, this back and forth of like, oh well, should I work with Luke or well, what about this other thing? Like it's just better.
Right.
It's more practical for both parties. To that point, to say, well, no,
Yeah.
I don't block out hours. I don't give free consultations. You
Yeah.
got my best advice. If you want to work with me, let's work together. If you need anything like a case study or whatever, I'm happy to give that as well. Like if you need to know
Yeah.
that I'm legit. Um,
And and I also make sure during that initial, that free assessment or advice or whatever, like I don't gate any of that.
Same.
Like I give them my full advice. It's probably worth more than $0, but
Yeah.
I'm not, I want to give them that value. I want them to go take that free advice, implement that simple fix in their account, and it's like, oh, this guy was smart. This guy knew
Yeah.
exactly what I needed to do. I'll pay him.
And it's
Yeah.
also like, I don't know about you, but like I love this stuff. So it's like I love talking about it. Like I don't. It's
I love looking at a variety of accounts
same.
run by a variety of people across the world and seeing which of these verticals they're crushing it in. And I've learned so much by looking at all this stuff. If like this person is doing this really well, this person is not doing well because of this.
Mm.
After a
It's
few
like I
years, you're
had
just
this.
like,
I had this guy approach me, and they were selling, like I guess, delicacies, right? Like really nice food, and they were having a hard time, like selling them. I just started like asking a couple of questions, just probing a little bit, and then it was like, yeah, like I've been discovering that 80% of my clients or my buyers are gift buyers, right? Like they buy a gift and they
mhm,
don't repeat. Like I just told them like it's probably gonna be very hard for you to make a profit on Google because for
yeah,
most e-com stores, like you're gonna want to like do some other marketing than just
right.
the first buy, right? And the CPCs were just kind of high. I was like, yeah, I don't think you can make your store work without getting the repeat
Especially
buy.
like, sounds like lifetime value is one purchase,
Yeah,
not
exactly. So lifetime,
five
yeah, it was
purchases.
just one
Yeah.
purchase, and like people wouldn't come back, and then I'm just like, yeah, this could be really, really, really difficult. Um, and like I like because I don't like charge money for like a consult or whatever. Like I'm very comfortable just saying that. Like I don't need
Mhm.
to get declined, right? I don't need to give some
Yeah.
bullshit story like.
It's also a great pre-filter. Like I am filtering them as much as they're filtering me, to be honest,
Oh, that's also true.
in that
Yeah.
call, because I can learn a lot about their business, and if it's viable, and if I want to, join my horse to their carriage for a long time, like
Yeah.
is this legit? Like I can see all that data, and I know.
Yeah, it's like, is this
And
the business you
yeah,
want to work with?
yeah, but,
I
yeah.
like the activity in the chat. This is really fun. Um,
Let's see.
what do you guys think
I
about
have
AI
not.
callers? I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan either. I get called by AI callers these days, and I
Oh
hang
my
up
god.
instantly once I figure out they're AI. Yeah.
I've been getting a lot more spam calls lately, and I think it's the advent of like AI callers more. So I don't even pick up, but
So the first couple times I didn't realize they were AI because they are pretty accurate until they laugh, and then the laugh is like it's like hellish. It's terrible. It's like God.
oh my
So
god.
yeah, I just started hanging up. Yeah, don't use AI callers. Like,
I mean, on the topic of calling, I think it's great. So I had the other day, I had a pure like inbound, like from SEO basically, like an
mhm,
organic inbound, like that hadn't happened before, to me before,
yeah,
and like they just left their phone number and just like call, immediately, like call, like if a client or if someone gives their phone number on a
mhm.
like a lead form, you should just call them and
No,
talk to
totally.
them. And
Yeah.
like that can feel a little bit scary, maybe even. Like I understand that some people would, not know what to say, but if you just remember that it's another person on the line, it can leave a really good impression. Just
I never cold call,
yeah,
um,
same.
but sometimes people do leave their phone number on an inbound lead, and I don't like calling people on the phone because I'm a millennial, but chances are, if you can have a real conversation with someone and they're interested in you, it does leave a good impression. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, Gil's a real person. He gave me some good advice. Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's I definitely like on the topic of calling. I definitely recommend that. I don't cold call either. I respect people who can make it work, but it's not my
Yeah, that requires a personality that I do not have.
same
But
here. So let's see. Someone's been getting 15 appointments a day organically. If we drop them in the Discord, they're gonna spill the sauce.
oh, Oscar. I don't need 10 to 15 appointments a day.
No, that
I
actually
got to go to the
sounds.
coffee shop and drink a cappuccino. I don't have time for that.
Dude, that just sounds horrible. Like 10 to 15 calls. Also, someone asked for your book.
Yeah.
Plug it. Just.
Um, I don't really like plugging it, but I think building a successful micro agency on Amazon might be useful to read. It's very opinionated. It's not the way, but it's my way. Um, Very specific approach that we've used kind of over 7 years for Disco Sloth. We're a super small agency boutique. We have 3 full-time people, but I think we're doing pretty well. I think we've kind of made a little name for ourselves within a very small niche. So yeah, that's my pitch for the book.
I mean,
Uh,
I can vouch for this book because I took it. I just applied the model, and I'm close to like 6 figures in my business now. So it works.
it's not bad.
Yeah.
Honestly, I am so glad we wrote that book. It was a lot of work. And I was unsure if it would actually be useful, but I have heard from so many people that they liked the approach. So it makes me happy knowing someone else has like 6 figure business, like that's awesome. I did not know that's possible, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible when we started either. So I was kind of a leap of faith for us. So
I don't know. It just like to me like the model. I'm just so selling right now. It's like the model. And I won't tell you what the model is unless you buy the book. Just the
use my
model.
coupon code GIL
Yeah,
right
exactly.
now.
Like, no, I read that book when I was when I had I had a business previous to this, which was a lot like it just had a different model. And I was like, I should apply this. Like, this seems like a great business model. And then around half a year later or so, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this, and it worked out for me. So
Yeah.
I mean, the premise really is just having a small, very narrow focused business rather than to have a business that's trying to do everything. I think that's a pretty good summation of what you'll find in there. Um, Obviously, with more tactics and more your vision. I like how you guys did that.
I think another key difference in our model is it's a little bit of a long-term approach rather than short-term. It's very much you do a lot of prep work that takes a long time to pay off, but when it pays off very well. A lot of personal branding, a lot of kind of engagement, building your authority in the niche. Yeah, it's not if you want to get rich tomorrow, it is not the way. But if you want to get rich in 4 years, it may be the way. So
I mean, like full disclaimer, like I don't want to give people the idea like you can just start a 6 figure business out of nowhere. Like I've been a marketer for like almost 5 years already, so to me like it's like I'm applying like what I already know. It's not like I'm just like
yeah,
new having zero experience, like I've been a freelancer, like I've had big clients, I've worked with enterprise, so there's that foundation. But for anyone that that does maybe have experience, either already in business as a freelancer or maybe in house, like I think the micro agency model is pretty amazing, to at least get like a toehold into the industry with.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we're PPC, but it doesn't, I don't think that model is limited to PPC. I think you could apply that kind of general approach to almost anything digital,
Sure.
just
Yeah.
any digital services.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like, just in marketing, there's so many, like, copywriting, content, design, PPC,
Yeah.
social media. Yeah, I don't know about that one, but hey, maybe you can make it work. Um, so let's see. Do you have any more questions in here? I charge for my time fixing their problem, even for 1 hour, and I still upsell them. Get your point, though, but want to switch from not selling 1 hour unless they... I don't know. I don't really... I just give it for free. It's working out for me so far.
I would
noticed
wonder,
that-
like, what would you consider a high amount? Because at some point, hourly does make sense if you can charge enough. But
True.
I've found a resistance to paying high hourly amounts, but not necessarily a resistance to high retainers.
Yep.
It's something psychological where someone is like, "You're charging $400 an hour? What?" Like,
I
but
had that when I was working with my attorney at some point. I was just like, "Jesus fucking Christ!" Like,
Yeah.
I'm spending so much just on because especially as you grow your business and you're doing more like official stuff, you're gonna need like legal advice, and yeah, just seeing like 5 minutes for an email, $30. It's like,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I limit how much I email my CPA because I know
Yeah.
he's going to charge in 15-minute increments.
Yeah. So whereas like if you just have a deal with someone, you're on a retainer, because the retainer model actually comes from law, I believe. It's very common there. I mean, I'm nowhere near that point, but say you're making like $500,000 to $1 million a year, you might just say, hey, I'm gonna have an attorney on a retainer, right, for X amount of hours or X amount of work, and that's kind of like the I guess the history of that. Totally unrelated. But I don't know. I feel like people, and this may be a whack theory, but usually people who ask me for hourly work tend to be lower quality leads.
Yeah, it basically means they want to pay you for a very little bit of work rather than for a long ongoing project.
Yeah, I think they have a mindset of like PPC is just a one, we're speaking for PPC here, right? So it's just a one-stop thing.
Like set it up, turn it on, let it go.
Yeah, or
it's
it's like-
very much not that.
It's like,
That's-
Luke, I can't get my campaigns to work. Take a look, fix it, and be done with it. And nah, that's not I might try one thing, but I might have to try another thing. I might have to try another thing and another thing, right? And only
Yeah.
then we're getting the results. So
And at least this, again, this is PPC, but I think it's pretty applicable in most places. We have clients we've been working with for 3 or 4 years now, and their campaigns are still getting a little better. 3 or 4 years later,
yeah,
we're still just a little bit better every month. So I wish I could have the magical company where you can just set it and forget it, but I've yet to
It's
find that
amazing.
company anywhere in the world. So.
I mean, you can probably just set and forget it and see some sort of stagnation or worsening of performance. Maybe you can maintain it, but it's a lot more satisfying to just keep pushing those CPAs down or keep pushing that ROAS up. Yeah. Let's see. Then is it even worth it to give your time for free? Worth it to give? I mean, so like I said, I love talking about this stuff. Like I
Hmm.
enjoy looking at different accounts, and it makes me better at what I do. Or at least talking to people about their businesses, and looking at their website, thinking about whether or not I can make this work or how to make it work. It's an exercise to me. Like like I would say it keeps me sharp in a way. Um,
Yes, and I will share an anecdote, and I will try to anonymize it to illustrate why I do it this way. Uh, One Sunday, I got an inbound lead, a guy asking me to look through his campaigns.
mhm.
And so I jumped in and I realized, oh, this is a big campaign. Um, so I was like, I didn't charge him anything. I hopped on a quick phone call with him. He gave me access to the accounts. Then I was like, I am spending the next 2 hours doing the best free audit I have ever done. And we sent that over. Within 24 hours, he like he was our client, paid us, largest client we'd ever had at that point. Still with us years later. And he told me later that he had asked another agency to do the same thing, and they would not look at it unless he signed a contract with them. And the words he used specifically were, they said they wouldn't even pick up the phone for less than $500. So in my mind, someone, maybe I could have made $500 from that call, but in the years since, it's been a whale of a client, an anchor client that we've had for years now. Awesome people, one of our favorite clients, simply because I just picked up the phone and chatted with the dude. I was real and he liked me. And I gave him a lot of advice. I sent him an email that was like this long with everything he
I
needed to
think
change.
I think it also it's like like obviously first impression isn't the most important thing, but I do think that like if you deliver so much value and so much like just genuine like worth from the start, people just pick up on that, and it just changes the relationship from the start into more of a, hey, we're in this together, this is a partnership, versus I'm just looking to earn money from you, right? Like all my clients, like I have very I'd say very honest relationships with them. Like it's just very
Yeah.
like we can just speak very frankly, and like I'll tell them if I think something doesn't make sense or doesn't work, and like that way, like both I succeed more and they succeed more. It's like and I think that sort of comes from starting off on the right foot rather than immediately trying to get
Yeah.
as much as I can from the client.
It's, and some of this, like, I would reiterate that this is just my approach, and so many
Yeah.
people in industries do charge, and that's fine. But I, I feel like it, at least for me and the sorts of clients I usually work best with, that feels a little transactional to
Yeah.
me.
Same.
And I'm okay developing relationships over the course of months, if not years, with people that I can be helpful with. And, I might not make money from them for a very long time. It's okay. I don't need it right now.
Yeah.
It'd be nice eventually, but when it does happen, it's meant to happen.
Cause like I've had
Uh,
clients that went away and then came back, right? Like
yeah.
sometimes like I've had clients where they tell me that they can't advertise now, and I'm like, oh, this is just an excuse for you to stop, and like
Mhm.
that's fine, right? Like if you don't feel like just saying I don't want to work with you, that's cool. But like I've had many clients like just say that and then come back and like actually having meant that they couldn't advertise at the time. And I don't think they
Right.
would be as open if I was more transactional to them. Like
Yeah.
they wouldn't have been like, oh well, it's 3 months later now. Well, let's contact Luke again and let's get him on the account, right? Like, and that, like, that's pretty amazing that
Yeah.
that can happen.
So at the end of the day, regardless of which specific discipline we're in marketing,
Yeah.
our entire job is making our clients more money than they pay us.
Yep.
If we're an expense, they're they're just going to cut us free.
Nope.
If if I can develop the sort of relationship with a client where I am making them a lot more value than I'm charging, even if that means maybe I'm free for a little bit,
Hmm.
or it will be a long-term relationship and it will be mutually beneficial. Yeah.
Even like
So,
especially for PPC, where sometimes it just takes more time to get results, it can be very
mhm.
advantageous to have a sort of storage bank of goodwill that you create
Yeah, you
from
gotta have
just like
some.
the servicing, right? Because like if like
If it's a few weeks or months before you start getting really good leads for your client or something,
yeah,
they're gonna have to be patient with you. So,
like they're gonna be
yeah.
like, Luke, where's the money, right? And like
Yeah.
actually having like like showing that you're really doing good work and that you know what you're doing, that you're being transparent. Usually, at least from my experience, has made clients a lot more lenient to just being patient. And then like
Yeah.
after maybe a month and something, it's like I've had a client now where it took us like 2.5 months to get to profitability. But now that we're there, we can like start scaling, right? Like we can start
Right.
like actually like really growing, like really start growing. And like had I not had a good relationship with them, they might have just said, well, let's not continue after the first month, right? And that
Yeah.
would have been a shame because at that time I already realized I can make this work. It's just going to take more time. Like it's just more difficult to get this to work, right? And now that it's working, we can scale. So it's also in the benefit of the client to actually have that relationship. Well, given that you are actually able to do what you're saying that you should do, um,
Yeah.
saying that you can do.
Totally.
Uh, don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't lie, people. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. Got some more questions. Have you guys ever tried delivering any few results up front? Would giving someone a few free leads from a PPC campaign be a good lead way to demo?
It's not a bad idea, but the trick in PPC is that you got to pay for that,
Yeah.
that Google Ads campaign. So I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea to spend a lot of money um, for a client.
Yeah, like well, one, I would never spend money for the client. It's their ads account. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
connect
yeah,
my credit
totally.
card to that or anything like that. Sometimes I have looked at an account that was like running, obviously, right? And like I gave some advice, and then they changed it, and then they saw some results, and then they decided to work with me. So I guess that's kind of like a free
Totally.
demo, right?
Yeah.
Um, on the other hand, one thing to mention is like some clients, especially smaller clients, if you can get them some results quickly in the first 2 weeks, you're much more likely to retain them. Um, so there's always the challenge and there's always the sort of battle against the time where it's like how fast is it going to take me
Yeah.
to get those first
The
results.
clock is ticking.
Yeah,
I need to
yeah,
bring some revenue in for them very quickly.
yeah, and obviously the better you get, the easier it becomes to one estimate if that's possible, and two actually making that work. Um, Because like yeah, it's those first weeks that are really crucial, and that's why it's also important to have that goodwill. But if you can have the goodwill and you can like get them some results in the first few weeks, like you're kind of on the path to having a client for life, right? Like there's no reason for them to just stop working with you because you're getting results and you're
Yeah.
providing a good service. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I wouldn't pay for someone's leads. It's also a bit like yeah, it's PPC. I don't control the market. I just control the machine that surfs on the momentum of the market. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I try to get results fast. Obviously, the fastest I can, um, and ideally you can maintain that. Another question: how do you then balance between being their consultant and business mentoring slash coaching? How much strategy and extra stuff do you share with them? Um, I try to have clients that I believe can scale and can grow. Um, I'd say, like if I think now, I'd say like a good 80% of my clients have the ability to really grow as a business. Also, like the operational ability.
Yeah.
And literally, me sharing like business advice can actually mean that they are able to handle the sales or the leads that I bring in, which allows them
Yeah.
to start spending more, which allows me to charge more. So
W-
I, Yeah.
I share as much as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, like even outside of outside of what I'm getting paid for. Like we have clients, we're looking at their logistics and inventory, and we're doing like market research on their pricing and some of their competitors. We have clients that we go to their annual conferences and share with their, vendors and team members on everything. They ask us any question, and I'm there to share everything.
I
And I
mean,
don't charge
literally,
extra for that.
literally
It's just
just
we,
before this, like I was on a call with a client and like he wasn't really sure about like his actual like CPA target, and I was just like, okay, let's just go through like your data. Let's go like put
yeah.
everything together. Like what you're shipping for one product, what you're shipping for two, three. Like what are your discounts? Like let's just
Hmm.
calculate the averages. He was like, Luke, like that was super useful. Like I now know like
Yeah.
we can spend $20 when we sell two items. Now we know we can spend $10 if we sell one item or whatever, right? And just that taking that extra step, it's why not share, right? Like why
Yeah.
not help your client grow? Because the client grows, you grow.
Yeah. And if there's a concern about, getting paid for that work, like I am getting paid for that work. I
Yeah.
just charge enough to make sense to
Yeah.
give all that information.
Yeah,
Like,
and also
just
like
charge a lot. Like,
I get paid by having a very high retention. Like
yeah.
like the
It,
client picks me while they could technically find another PPC person who could take over and cruise off of the work that I've done, right?
there are many other PPC agencies out there, and most of them are cheaper. um, they will, but the number one problem that almost any agency or freelancer or consultant has is getting clients. And one way that problem is made worse is by high churn because you have to
Yeah.
keep getting new clients. I am interested in reducing churn to the max. I don't want a client to
Yep.
ever churn.
Yep.
Sometimes they do. It's unavoidable. It happens. But for every client that doesn't churn, I don't have to get a new one, and I can grow the ones I have. And if that means I have to spend a lot of time just,
I don't think people
yeah,
realize the insane power of just focusing on reducing churn versus focusing on trying to have as many clients like as possible. Because if I don't lose clients, any inch I make in progress, right, is gonna be nearly permanent, right? Whereas like
yeah,
if you're constantly in this gain lose, first of all, that's emotionally draining, right? It's just owning
yeah.
a business is
You're
stressful.
starting over from scratch, from
Yeah,
square one every time, and it's just,
but like the
yeah,
more like you retain and like the more you build this like fundamental like cash flow in your business, fucking incredible.
yeah,
Like if it's like stable and like you've got clients for years, like clients are happy, like that's I think a lot more powerful than having to rotate through clients every 3 or 4 months. Like
yeah.
I would get very tired of that for sure.
I don't think I would do good work at
Yeah.
it with that kind of. I couldn't invest in any single one of the client that much. I need time to get to
Yeah.
know this guy, get to know their team members, what they're doing. I need a lot of
And
time to make the
like
most of
that
it.
also adds to your your stickiness is because you start to understand the business, you start to understand the people.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got a larger team. Like you're giving value on so many fronts. Like it's yeah. Like and like
Uh, let's see.
got some more
Sorry.
questions.
Yeah, a few. Uh, let's see. We're doing way undervalued work. Yes, I agree. Besides dealing with ads, what do you charge monthly? Thanks, guys. Need to say goodnight and run soon.
Good
Thank
night.
you. First of all, thanks for the good
Yeah.
questions and
Thanks
interaction.
for
There's a
being
lot of good
here.
questions. What do I charge monthly? As much as humanly possible. That's the only real answer. Um, that really has to do with ad spend. It's usually kind of expressed as a ratio, a percentage of ad spend, but we just do a flat rate. So 10 to 20% usually is
Same
kind
here.
of the,
Same here.
yeah. Usually 10 to 20% is kind of usual.
My average has been, I think, around 18, which is pretty on the higher end.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not too bad.
Yeah. But I look
When
at
we
it like
when we
it's,
have a big account, like we have some accounts spending like 100,000 a month or more, and we don't charge 20% for them. We charge
yeah,
it's close to
it's the
10%.
extremes. Like you're going to be on a higher percentage on the smaller spenders. You're going to be
Yeah,
on a lower percentage on
yeah.
and that's why the flat fee tiers are so great. Someone says, I'm fairly new to the space. How do these guys claim guaranteed results so you don't pay? They might lose a ton of cash. They might never actually follow up on that guarantee. They might just say, well, that guarantee was only for 30 days and that was in some subtext in the contract that you didn't read. Um,
Yeah,
they,
I don't like jumping on these models if I don't know all the details, but I just have never seen any of that sort of stuff actually work out. I'm sure there's some legit folks out there that are doing it that way that somehow have found the recipe, but I could never do that.
it's like I don't guarantee results. I look at the client, I look at their niche, I do some research, I do some analysis, I share my analysis, and I'm like, with this, I'm pretty confident I can make this work. Or I'm like, I'm not confident at all, right? Like,
Yeah, and if I'm not confident, I just don't work with them. I tell them that. I'm like,
yeah.
sorry, we can't make this work. But yeah, I'm not going to work with someone if I don't think I can help them.
I mean, like, I've
But
had clients where
guaranteeing
I
it
thought
is
I
just
could,
a
like, where I knew I could help, but I was like, there's a very big risk this is not going to work, right? And they were still like,
yeah.
well, I want you to do it because you seem like you're the most knowledgeable and I like your strategy. And I'm aware that there maybe is only a 30% success rate. And then I'm like,
And
sure, like, let's do it.
ironically, I have gotten a lot of business over time by being the guy that clients have told me, like, you're the only guy that actually said that, haven't sold me a dream.
Yeah.
Like everyone else was like telling me they could, double my revenue in a month. I'm like, I'm that's unfair to everybody if I say that because
Yeah.
I can't. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
I tell my clients when I'm surprised as well. I'm like, I didn't expect you'd get a 5x ROAS. Just
yeah.
like I didn't
But
expect it.
like, yeah, it's just the classic, adage like you you don't promise everything and then deliver nothing. Yeah, like that's just the worst way to do it. Like, no, you gotta out deliver. Like, yeah, under promise, over deliver.
That's the title of a very good book, actually, by
Oh, really?
what's his name? Something Kurtz. Good author, good marketer. Direct response though, so
Okay.
maybe not what you like, but
Interesting. Yeah.
I think
Well,
Brian Kurtz
he's
is
got
actually a
something.
very very good book. He was a list manager for like a very large publisher, and
Uh-huh.
I recommend
Okay.
that book. I see one more question. My clients only spend around a maximum of $1,000.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I would recommend to try and get larger clients. You also said you work on Meta. I don't know if there's a big difference between people spending on Meta and Google, but I don't know. Google seems to be.
So if a client's spending $1,000 or so, like you at some point you're going to need a minimum,
Yep.
regardless of the ratio.
Yep.
So like it's really difficult to charge 10% of $1,000 because that's not a lot of money.
$100.
But
Yeah.
you could have a minimum of $300 or
Yeah.
whatever it works for you.
I
How
have a
many
minimum.
clients
I
can you handle?
sometimes go off of it. Like very
Mhm.
rarely though. Only if I really like the client and if I think we can
Same.
make it work. Like I've had one
Yeah.
client where
Same.
I actually gave him a deal, but otherwise I just
Yeah.
always say no. I've got a minimum, and
Yeah.
they can decide if they are okay with it.
She also asks, how many clients can you handle at once? I got 10 to 12 now. That's a lot with only me running my agency. Scaling from here is difficult. You're not wrong. I think as a solo person, it would be really difficult to handle a little more than maybe 15, maybe 10 or 15. So your options are start charging more, go up
Yes.
market, hire someone, or
Or get good. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah, get better. No, sorry. Uh, yeah, just yeah, you just have to go up market slowly. Just slowly replace clients with slightly higher spending clients. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah, and
Um,
narrow down. Like I had some SEO work in my clientele, and that really started slurping up a lot of my energy and my time. And then I got rid of them, and I've replaced it with a couple of clients already, and it's just so much easier.
yeah, we did the same thing a few years ago. We just absolutely stopped offering any work other than PPC.
And it's
So
like it's
much more
hard. Like
bandwidth.
I still get so many clients that ask like, "Hey, Luke, do you do other kinds of marketing too?" And I'm like, "I
Yeah.
used to, but not anymore."
Yeah, it's a little tricky because I want to help them, but I also know like this, going off book and doing something else, that's like the equivalent of doing five other PPC clients.
Yep, yep. Yeah,
It's
like
it's really
I
difficult.
wouldn't exaggerate that like since I've cut that client or at least that work away, I have space for five clients again. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's and like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then again though,
Uh,
like on your question, I do think you can have more than 10 to 12. Um I am
Especially with smaller accounts, you could probably
if
15 or
you're
20 max,
I mean, it depends what kind, like
maybe.
how you like to work. I'm someone who loves to like systemize and like optimize the methods of what I'm doing, and
Hmm.
like I keep getting faster with what I'm like doing for my clients. So I would say like how many I can handle at once? Probably 30, 40 would probably be like I'd be
That's
approaching.
sadistic. That is, yeah, that's
Yeah, you
the amount of
don't you don't
emails you'd be.
you don't know me long enough. Like I'm crazy enough to try it. Like
Um, I think the deluge of emails every morning would suffocate you, I think, but maybe not.
maybe who knows? But
Brittany
probably
has a couple of
healthily
good
15,
questions.
like yeah, 15, 20, probably.
It also depends on how large the clients are and how simple the work is and how systematized, I guess. If you can do most of your, half of your day is just admin and communication, and the other half is managing, probably pull it off.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna wrap up. I don't know what you're thinking, but
Oh,
I see here we have one more question. Maybe we can answer that one. And
yes. Yeah, we'll cover. Brittany says what kind of churn rates. She has 25%. Her numbers are good. Um, she thinks blah, blah, blah.
I mean, it
Sorry.
sounds like you're on the path.
Yeah. And then how are we acquiring clients? Um,
I
to
read
answer both of
content.
those quickly, 25% is a little high. That's what is that like you keep a client for 3 or 4 months? It's not the worst. I I was curious recently on we've been doing it for 7 years, so we're gonna have a different answer, totally different answer. But our average client has been with us for 2.4 years, and that's counting some new clients that have been with us for a couple months. At the very first few years, when we had a lot smaller clients, we probably had a 3 or 4 month average lifetime for a lot of clients. But the more upmarket you go, the higher budgets you're working with, the longer they stay with you. So, yeah.
I don't. I can. I feel like I can always sense the churn. I don't know. Like sometimes even like just in the first week
Oh,
of a
yeah.
client, like I'm working together. I'm like, I can tell if you're gonna stay. It's just
Mhm.
at some point you start to notice the red flags, like the I don't know, like there's some personality traits or some stuff that a client really shows that makes you think like, well, this client could be volatile.
Yeah, yeah. But you eventually those red flags, you start kind of seeing those and knowing those.
And there's also the benefit
Eventually,
as
I've
you
learned to
grow,
avoid
like you
most of
can just
that.
reject those clients, right? Like you can just not work with them.
Yeah.
So,
Which that's easier said than done for someone just starting out if you need all the cash flow. Like we worked with some very bad fits the first few years just because we needed anything we could get.
I mean, like last week has been the first time I started rejecting. Like I had a pretty decent deal. Like it was like
Yeah.
10% of my current revenue. So it's a nice
Mhm.
addition, and I just rejected it because it was too much work for that 10%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, it's good. I think it can be good to also know when to say no, right, and when to
Yeah.
not take on a certain client.
Yep. Well, I guess you got to wrap up. So
That was that was nice, pretty good. I hope that
yeah,
was useful to people.
yeah, it was fun. Hopefully, it was interesting. Yeah.
PPC, huh?
PPC is the most boring yet interesting industry
I
out
find
there.
it so interesting. It's just
It's
trading to me. It's addictive. It's not a good.
super interesting to me, but sometimes I tell people what I do if I just meet them and they have no idea, and like their eyes glaze over and they're like, "Okay,
Yeah,
cool."
it's like what are you buying click skill? What?
What? What?
Who would do such a
Yeah.
thing?
People pay $50 for a click. What?
For a Google click, isn't Google for free? Like-
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, people, for questions.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for who's here, and
Yeah.
see you guys next time.
Yeah. We'll do it again.